Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitrón Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868. Back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Paul Buitrón. I'm here with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Gil Martinez, who is running for school board of LISD. How are we doing today?
Pretty
You
good.
doing
Yeah, doing well. Thank you, Paul.
Well, yeah, glad to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here.
And, I saw your name and I said to myself, you know what? We need to talk to you. We need to find out exactly what's going on.
Yeah, no.
Well, you were part of the board before of the college LC, right?
Right. From I was part of the board from 2012 to 2018. I kind of promised everybody I'd be there for one term. Our founding father George Washington, big fan. So I said I'll just do one term. I'm there to kind of help fix the problem. At the time, the college was on academic probation. I felt I could help, and fortunately, the voters gave me a chance, and we were able to do that. In less than 6 years, we did it in 4 years, and got the college back on track.
So that's a lot of people don't know that, and I used to teach at the college.
Yeah.
I used to teach before at the college. I'm the adjunct instructor, and I was there for many years. It's a fine institute, and things changed, and I left, and didn't leave because of something that happened. I just left because there were other things in life that I should do.
Sure.
And maybe one day we'll go back and teach again.
Yeah.
But what I saw was that there was a lot of people that wanted to grow, but it wasn't growing. It was just like, and I left like in 28, 29, that's when it was around that time.
Yeah. And I think it's a little tougher to grow out today for a variety of reasons, but it's still one of the biggest colleges, community colleges in Texas. Mm-hmm. It's got the 2 campuses. It has a lot of good technical programs. I think they're going in that direction, and I think the board that's there right now is doing a pretty good job with trying to bring back a lot of things. I know when I was there, we didn't have a real estate program anymore. It had been lost, but now they brought it back, and of course the truck driving school is pretty well established.
When we talk about like truck driving and real estate and stuff like that, there's a lot of vocations out there that people can find a niche for.
Yeah.
If you're extrovert and you like to sell and stuff like that, go into real estate. I mean, the market's there. Go into that in truck driving. We need it here. Laredo being the number 1 port in the nation. We need the truck driver schools. We need that stuff. We need welders. We need the vocation courses in there. When we have a board that is into that, that's looking into other things to help the community, what we need, maybe a plumbing course there, teach people how to become plumbers, maybe a carpentry, maybe stuff like that, because listen, Laredo's growing, and Laredo's growing at a very fast pace.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see some general contractor courses go through there as well, teach people how to be a general contractor, show people what you need. And I think that will alleviate a lot of the pains in what happens in day to day in the city. Okay, because you got a lot of guys out there that say, I'm going to be a contractor from one wind to the next, and they have no idea what's going on. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, they get into into a problem, then all of a sudden other cities after them, and the cities after this, and the city doesn't trust the contractors or what have you, whatever it may be. And so I think if we get some good courses and some good tutelage into those areas, I think we can make the city flow a little bit better. But again, who am I?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's something that I think the school district's going to also kind of focus in on. I remember when I was in high school, some time back, we had the OJT program, the
Sure.
on-the-job training, and I remember some of my classmates. I have one good friend of mine who was in the GT program, and he was on his way to Harvard, and then decided, no, you know what, I'm going to do this on-the-job training program, and he got a job working in high school at HEB, one of our great companies in Texas, and now he's a district manager, and I remember stories like that. Also, classmates of mine that had on-the-job training opportunities with our local banks,
Sure.
and now they're vice presidents and so forth. We've kind of gone away from that, and I think that that's something that we also need to bring back and I don't know, reintroduce or reinforce at both our school districts, but especially LISD is one that concerns me. So.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Listen, I remember back then there used to be an auto body program, auto shop program, butcher shop. There used to be so much stuff out there that you can. One looked at it, I don't want to go into auto, but wait a minute. But all of a sudden now I'm dealing with cars. Now I'm messing around with them. Not only that, it teaches you some skills that go out there, and some of these people can get a side job on there. I remember there used to be an auto body shop.
Right.
One of the schools had an auto body shop. A friend he's an acquaintance of ours, and we ended up meeting each other in Dallas, and he was the head of Midas used to be out there. So then he bought a Midas, and he was inside with the Midas, and he was doing very good. And I remember him in Dallas, and we used to run into each other. And he had an excellent Midas shop. In fact, he fixed one of the cars that I had over there, and came out of Laredo. Now people say you can't. Well, he continued going that way. He was always messing around with cars. He was painting cars on the side. He was doing stuff there. And he was always that kind of. He was always monkeying around with cars in that sense. And people say, no, he's into hot rods. But we were all kind of into that that phase. And then all of a sudden you see him over there. That to me was something different. There's so much butcher shops. We have a lot of butcher shops here in Laredo. Something that a lot of people do not, and there's a niche, and I'll say this, just look at the walls. You see, I love hunting. There's a lot of, we live in a hunting area. South Texas is a hunter's paradise. When you go into butchery and you become a butcher, man, you can have a side gig on deer season, purveying deer. You're gonna be filled up for a good 3-4 months. You can even close shop down in March and all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm gonna open it up over here, or continue whatever you want to, but have a side deal for game that's always being brought in. I mean, that's something we don't have.
Yeah, no, I remember being in high school, seeing my friends all covered in red, because they were, they had been working and I was curious as to what they were doing, but you don't see that anymore. And speaking of that, also, people only knew how much a taxidermist made. They'd be a little bit, they might make a career change, especially down here.
In good business sense, not only being good taxidermist, but having a good business sense, logic behind running a good shop. I mean, if you're good, people are going to come with you from all over the United States. Hey, listen, some of these animals are from Africa that you see up here, and you need a special taxidermist to get the animals in from Africa.
Right.
And they're the only ones that can actually do the work if they were imported or exported from Africa to the United States. They're the only ones that can do that. Yeah. There's only about 3 here in the States.
Wow.
Here in the state of Texas. So you're like, you have to go in there. So all of a sudden they'll put a price whatever they want.
Yeah.
Because they can do it. So people, there's a lot of side gigs that you can go into. There's a lot of ways you can make money, especially if you like it, if you understand it.
Right.
The business skills have to grow up, and I think that's something that the school district should now be talking about what skills to teach, soft skills, hard skills. We need them both. You know, if you don't have good soft skills, start learning them. If you have good hard skills, if you lack them, well, start learning those too. And I think that's what we need to teach, especially our seniors and our juniors now.
Right. And you know, I think one of the reasons why they've gone, it's not completely their fault, you know. This adherence to standardized testing and let's, you know, teach to a test that's being mandated has really, for the last 20 years, shifted the focus, right? It's like, well, we need to do this, so we can't do that, right? And you're just now starting to see that change, or at least the mindset, even from both political parties. They're both really, you know, a lot of times they don't agree on much, but they're starting to agree that, okay, maybe this is not the best way to do it. And I think once we let go of that a little bit, or a lot, we'll begin to reintroduce all these programs. You know, I see it all the time. When I was at the college, before I was a board member there, I taught there for 9 years, and then here at the university where I teach, we get students always coming in telling us, oh, we never learned this, no one taught us this. And it's not the school district's fault or the teachers, it's just that they have this mandate, that they kind of have to turn into. But I think that there's a way through that, a way around it, and I think we're beginning to see a change.
No, you're correct. Is one thing that we're not taught, not even in universities, how to use money.
Yeah.
We're taught about how to go into a job, how to get a job, but we're not taught about how to use money.
Right.
And we need to understand how to do that. And there has to be some more courses. I mean, we have to change the way we look at things, because a lot of people graduated, go in there, and all of a sudden they're working and they're still in debt. Yeah. And they can't get out of that. So it just gets worse and worse and worse. You know, we need to talk to our colleges to see do we really need all these remedial courses? Do we really understand what we're doing with the kids? Or are we just doing it as a scam to be able to scam our students out of their loans, because we know the government's going to give them loans and they can pay it off later on, if need be. You know what I'm saying? So we really need to stop, and we need to focus, and people need to say, you know what, this is what we need. And the board members, like people that hopefully get in the board, need to see and acknowledge and say, you know what, there's a need for that. We need to change our ways to be that way. And I think that's what we need to do now.
Right. Yeah, no, and I remember being in 8th grade, taking a study skills class, and the teacher came in. She was a young teacher, very excited, and she brought her own, I don't remember if it was copies, but she brought like a checkbook, and nobody really uses checkbooks anymore, right? But she was teaching us, okay, so you're gonna get $100, and here are all these expenses, and we were like making checks one day. It didn't even feel like we were learning. We felt like we were like goofing off. Yeah. But no, I remember that lesson very clearly. I don't know if things like that are still taught today, but yeah, you're right. It should be reintroduced, especially, I know our business students, especially the ones who take finance, or finance majors, you know, they graduate and they kind of know the lay of the land, right? But for everybody else, I think there should be, and I really do think that the required math course now is business math. It used to be algebra, and for the longest time I had to take algebra. I took it more than once. It took me a while, but now it's I think business math is a required course, and that gives them a little bit more understanding of how to deal with, maybe not their finances, but with actual real life situations.
Sure.
They're going to have.
And let's talk a little bit more about the campaign.
Sure.
What position you're running for? Where are you running it to? From where is it coming? What's the district from? For you kind of give an idea for the people that are coming in. And for those that are tuning in, I'm talking to Dr. Gil Martinez, who is running for LISD, and he's going to explain to us the district that he has, where is around.
Right.
where you guys can go vote.
Yeah, and it's the LISD District 6. Mr. Garcia is retiring, and he was the board member there. He's the board member there, but he's retiring. And that's in East Laredo. It covers DDHR Elementary School, Amar Middle School, Milton Elementary, Ryan Elementary. So it's kind of like this side of Bartlett, all the way up to the DDHR area. So it's that district right there. And like you mentioned, I served on the board at Laredo College. I gained some experience there that I think was useful. I really, to be honest with you, I've always wanted to run for a school board position at the district level. I thought I would do it later on in my career, but there were some things lately that have concerned me that I thought, well, maybe sometimes you can't decide when you want to try to help, but it's decided for you. And one of the besides the whole standardized testing and so forth, I think this goes hand in hand with it, was what happened in Uvalde. And I'm starting to see that whatever is happening may not be working as effectively as we would like. And I want to try to go in there. I want to help. I feel I have, and one of the things that I love about school board campaigns is that there's always this attitude of you're running for it. You're not running against someone. We're all the other candidates. I only know one of them personally. I feel all of us want to go in there and try to help.
Sure, that's what I see in LISD.
Yeah.
I see a different attitude, paradigm shift from LISD to UISD. In LISD, I see a lot of guys, like a lot of good guys that are running because they want to help. Hey, let me see what I can do. Let's go in there and let's help. It's time to help. And sorry if I say this, but maybe I'm looking at it differently. And in UISD, it's like, who can I get in there to get more votes, to slate the votes my direction? And that's not the way. I'm sorry, but I think that's what's happening in UISD in comparison to LISD. And that to me is a big mistake, because now you're going to start dealing with slated votes already.
Right, and then sometimes that's not helpful to the students, to
No, it's not.
the faculty and staff. But in my case, like I mentioned, I think I know one of the candidates personally, and I met the other ones. Nice young man, and I think all of us just kind of want to help. I feel though that I have some different ideas on how to safeguard our schools. Hopefully, even if I'm not elected, whoever does get elected takes my ideas and runs with them. And I just feel that what we're doing right now may not be working the way we want it to, and we can do a little better, right? And some of the things that I want to introduce because a board member also, sometimes one of the things I learned the hard way when I was a board member at Laredo College is that one can't go in and mandate what they want. You're not a mayor, you're not a governor. You have to convince the other 6, 7, 8 board members that your idea is a good one. And so, I had to learn that, even if I'm in total agreement with the other board members, I have to find common ground.
Sure.
And so if I am elected, one of the things that I would like to, have the help of the other board members is to have better early alert warning systems.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example. At the university where I worked at TAMU, every building has a very large alarm at the top of the building. It's very large. And they warn us, hey, we're going to test this alarm, because if you don't have that warning, it does its job. It's alarming. That's why they call it an alarm. We need those at all our campuses at LISD. One of the things that we saw in Uvalde, of course, anybody can look at it after the fact and be like, oh, I would have done this, I would have done, and it's difficult to judge. But if by the time that tragedy was occurring, this disturbed young man was already in the building. And if we had some type of alarm to warn everybody beforehand that there is something coming. I've been doing a little research on this, and there are two types of attacks that happen per se. And I think one of the ones that happen is the inside attack, where someone comes in and walks in with a weapon. We've actually done really good school districts across the country at safeguarding that. We've put metal detectors and security guards and so forth. But recently what you've seen is the second type of attack, which is this outsider that comes in, bulldozing their way in. And that's, I think, something that now needs to be addressed, right? So if an alarm goes off, if an alarm had gone off, like a really loud alarm, when this person was driving his truck in and so forth, it would have warned everybody in the building. Something, now we have to lock our doors or do this, do that. So that's one part of it, Paul. You need an alarm system, but you also need someone to trigger that alarm. And this is not without precedent. For years, our schools used to have crossing guards. You hear a lot of parents saying, I'll go volunteer. That's not without precedent. Our parents have been crossing guards, or at least they used to be. We need some type of like a sentry guard, observe and report. Somebody that will see something coming, doesn't look right, err on the side of caution, hit that alarm. And also it's a warning system for, not only a warning system, but an alert system for our resource officers. Paul, and resource officers really came about in our school districts after the Columbine shooting.
Sure.
That's when they started to appear in all these school districts. Since then, there have been 340 school shootings. 320,000 students have experienced this type of violence since then, since the introduction of our resource officers. So obviously, we need to add something to aid and help them, because they're just not sometimes able to get to these schools fast enough. And you hear some of them say, look, we don't have enough to put on every campus and so forth. Well, we might not need to do that, but we do need to have better warning systems, alert systems. I guarantee you hear an alarm like that, and either the school's evacuated or they're hunkered down, and that's what I would like to see at our schools.
I've studied the shootings from Columbine all the way to here. There's a point when I was younger, I was an executive protection specialist. So I did a lot of protections, and I've seen a lot of things. So I look at things. Not only do I teach here, I teach a lot of police departments through other states and other departments in other countries as well. And I've done that for many years. You need training, number one. The problem people have here in the state of Texas is you have something called TCLOS. TCLOS is what governs all the police law agencies and what can be taught and what cannot be taught, what curriculums can be taught inside it or not. Usually they'll do some kind of course, and that course is passed on through the different departments, and they put their own officer to teach their own. They go through their instructor's course, and then they'll have their own people teaching in the departments their own, that pedagogy into the different departments. Well, that failed. That failed extremely in Uvalde. You had 376 or 74, 76. Might be off a couple of numbers on that, so you guys can correct me on that. Officers that were there from so many different departments, not only state, county, federal, different departments. Nobody did anything. To me, the lack of training because they all had the same training. If people say, no, we need more training, we're now going to do more active training. If it's the same active training that they've had in Ticlos, which failed over here in Uvalde, what's going to fail here in LISD? It's going to fail in UISD, it's going to fail in any other school district, period. It's going to continue failing, because we have something that's failing. And they might prove differently, and they might do everything else, and they might say, Paul, you're talking. No. There's a lot of wrongs that happened. Everybody was blaming, pushing fingers. You were the one that was directing. No, you were the one that was directing. No, the DPS was directing. You have, in the state of Texas, the sheriff is the highest law enforcement agency, period. And that agency is the only one that needs to be in control of everything there. And when you're a agent of that, how can I say, of the, how can I say, put it this way, if you're the head, you're the one that should have the SWAT, you're the one that should have the manpower, you're the one that should have the equipment to do that. As soon as something happens like that, they're the ones that go inside. I have nothing wrong with people in the different police departments of the school districts. I don't think they're adequate enough to protect that. God forbid something like that happens to Laredo, because we're in dire straits. I don't have faith in the school district police officers here. I mean, we'll falter. We need better security. I'm with you 100% with that. And there's a lot of good police officers, period. Don't get me wrong. Just the training is going to put you under. Here's another thing that I've been in observance with. When that happened, that's the next day we were talking about security with that's been around. And the first security was barriers. And what school district has paid more and so on and so forth. I think Uvalde had paid something like 40, don't get me wrong, the numbers was like between $30,000 to $40,000 on security of their district. UISD and LISD had paid over $700,000. I think Houston was above UISD. So when you spend that much money on the security, well, of course you're going to have good security. And one of the things that they were pointing out was high fences that were 8 feet tall. You can't jump a fence. You have to go through a certain corridor, like you said, point guards, the sentry. You have to go through there. If here the kid jumped over a fence, a mom that was put down by a U.S. Marshal, they removed her handcuffs and she ran over and jumped in and got her kids out. Imagine that. Yeah. So what I'm telling you is we need better training with the police. We have good people in there. We need their training. We spend a lot of money on them. We better start training them in that sense. We better start understanding who's going to be the one in control, and I think it's a sheriff, my opinion, and others might think different. And I think they're the ones that's supposed to take care of the whole entity. And the reason is because once it gets there, we're in control. Enough of the pointing of the fingers. And remove the SWATs from the different departments. We don't need that. It's just enhancing their play and asking for more money. We can use the money for something else. And make sure that the sheriff has it, and make sure that the sheriff has 2-3 teams that are on the clock. One's roll over the other one. And something happens, God forbid, they're on point. But we don't need TAMU with a SWAT, LID with a SWAT. That's my point of view. We don't need LC with a SWAT, Railroad Police with a SWAT, over here with a SWAT. Now the federal agencies and the state agencies, they can do whatever they want. But in the county, the sheriff should be the one that should have it.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to you a little bit. Well, you said something interesting, and one of the reasons why I think I'm a different candidate than my other three counterparts is that when I was on the board, I was able to. We used to get proposals all the time. Oh, you need this program, you need that program, and so forth. And one of the things that I would often do is look up the research behind it, and I would say, well, the research doesn't add up to this. And interestingly enough, one of the things that I found is that with regards to the school shootings, there are a lot of these school shooters, I think comedians make jokes about it, I don't think they should, but they make jokes about it, is that, I think it's Dave Chappelle has a joke about this, where he says, what we're actually doing is training these shooters where people are hiding and so forth. And allegedly there is evidence that this young man knew exactly, the one in Uvalde, knew exactly which door to go through because he was a student there. He knew what the weak points were, and so I'm starting to wonder if all we're doing with these drills are just traumatizing our students, or I'm not saying it doesn't help, but it's also, there's evidence that says that it could be showing our cards, right, to these young disturbed men that commit these atrocities. Right?
I get where you're coming from, and it's an interesting point. I grew up in UISD. We grew up in United. We were the first class that graduated United, and when they had opened it up, it's one between International and Shiloh, that campus.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And we used to have deputy sheriffs were the ones that were walking around.
Yeah.
And they were great guys. To the point now, I'm still friends with a lot of these guys that were the ones that were taking care of us, and they're still out there with badges and so on and so forth. And we joke around, hey, remember we used to do this in high school? Remember you used to get in trouble in high school? Yeah, we saw guys with guns walking around. Nothing happened in that sense. At that time, you had a bunch of guys that had their 30-30s in their back of the seat of the truck.
Right.
I mean, it was a different era. I grew up in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I was in Louisville, Kentucky. And in Kentucky, you had police officers who used to come down and actually teach gun safety for 2 weeks. You had to take a test. It was part of your PE. Right. We don't have that here. We have the ability to do it because we have campus police.
Yeah.
All they have to do is go inside. Now, you know what, in PE, you're going to take this course. And you have that course every year, all the way up. Doesn't matter. We as parents also have to be paying attention to our kids. We have to listen to them. We can't be telling them, oh, don't talk about him this way. Don't talk about him that way. Because they're the ones that are telling us. And they're the first ones that are saying, you know what? Little Billy is it's kind of weird over there. He's drawing pictures of cats and so on and so forth. I'm afraid of telling the teacher because then they're going to say we're bullying. No, they're telling you something. There's red flags there. Let's do it. There was so many red flags with this kid.
Right. I mean, I think they even
they gave
him the nickname of school shooter or something.
Yes, yeah, no. There was a lot of stuff that was wrong about the whole situation. And what gets me, Doc, is when you look at the whole situation, the way the state handled it. You're like, really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of wrongs. They talk about the first thing that you saw some newscasters talk about. Well, his father never saw him. Well, his father, we got word that his father was not allowed to see the kid because the mom wouldn't allow him. That's called parental alienation. It messes with your mind. It's a thing that the school districts better start paying attention to because we have a lot of kids that come from divorced families and one parent doesn't allow the non-custodial parent to see them and to go to the events, and they make and the teachers allow that. No. If there's a decree and the decree says that the non-custodial parent can go to the school events, can be involved in their kid's life, can pick up the kid at school, why are we hindering that? Why are we aiding that? So there's a lot of wrongs that need to be fixed. And people better start saying, you know what, let's look at this, and the school boards have to step back and say, you know what, that's a point right there that's being missed. That point right there, we better get somebody to look at. That point over there, we need to get everybody together and say, you know what, let's work on this. That is the law.
Right.
So,
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can I talk a little bit about that? Because going back to standardized testing, it has residual effects, and one of the ones that it's had is that it's taking the counselors away from their primary purpose. So now they're the ones who are the stewards of this standardized testing. Some might say, well, it doesn't take that much time and so forth, but when I was in school, my counselor knew my name, would come in to talk to me. If they found out I had some type of life event, like a grandparent passing away or something like that, they would bring me in and they would talk to me. I would like to see that happen again. To where you know what's funny, Paul? I was watching some movie on Netflix, and somebody made a comment about the movie. Some kid and said the most unrealistic thing about the movie is that the student would have a counseling session with the counselor. That was the most unrealistic thing. Like a student was saying that. And so if we free them from this obligation of being the stewards of standardized testing, which, by the way, Paul, I think I mentioned this to you off camera, there's no statistically significant evidence that it even is effective. Someone bring it to me. Bring me the research. I've seen, there's nothing. In other words, it's not a good indicator if of whether a student is going to be successful or not.
Absolutely.
It's now even an issue with the SAT and the ACT, to where universities are like, yeah, we're not going to use it anymore. And those tests are much better than the ones like the STAR test and all these things that we're talking about. We can have a whole different session, and I can talk to you about the history and where that comes from.
And that's something that I'd like to get you and get some other people that are involved in that and talk about that and see how, if it really is effective. 'Cause I've had my ideas on that it wasn't for a very long time, and now things are coming out. You know, they come out different. Let me tell you something, Doc. During 2020, it opened the doors for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It put a lot of people back to sitting room into the drafting board and saying, you know what, my business needs to be here. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I have to advertise in. This is how I have to build. A lot of small businesses were not helped from the government, period. Ours was not. So I say that. And I know plenty of them. We formed an association, a group that we can help each other to move forward past these things. But that's not the same thing in schools. I go, listen, we have the ability to teach with Zoom. If the parent calls the school and says, you know what, I don't want my kid going to the school because this and this and this and this happens, the school should not be able to force them. The school should be able to tell them, you know what, you have Zoom, here's a laptop, make sure that he's on board, you take care of him at the Zoom, you can do that. And I guarantee you're going to start seeing a lot of different attitudes come up, a lot of different grades come up. Because why? You eliminate a lot of things that happen as your kid. One is bullying. And bullying has been a pet peeve of mine since '94.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to take care of. And that's something that when I moved back down here, Doc, in 2000, I had a meeting with the sheriff, Juan Garza, and the police chief, Dovalina. There were several other individuals that were there. The other Dovalina that taught at the college was there, and we were all sitting down and we were talking about bullying. What were we gonna do about it? And I said, well, we got some programs. Let's see if we can start pushing it differently. And this came of age because we were trying to push Savat in a different format, and we started talking about bullying. And I said, in the next 5 years, bullying's gonna go sky high. And another thing that you guys are gonna be dealing with within 10 years is gangs. And Dovalina, the police chief at that time, said, no, that's not gonna happen. Gangs here in Laredo, there's no gangs here in Laredo. We have a gang problem here now. Bullying, one of the school, I forget the person that was from the school board at that time that was talking to us, Veronica Guerra, she said, well, there's a lot of things about bullying that we do. And I go, what's gonna happen is there's gonna be a lot of changes in how bullying's gonna come of age. And it's gonna multiply with everything that we're having now. You're gonna start seeing it change. There was not social media as per se, but the internet was around. Emails were around.
Right.
Once you started seeing the forum groups start develop, and then all of a sudden the different social media start developing, all of a sudden now you have online bullying or internet bullying, cyberbullying, and so on and so forth. And it kind of changed grades. I said, we need to teach kids how to defend themselves for it, what they have to look for, how to deal with it. It's no big deal. It's very simple to teach them.
Yeah.
They ignored the fact. Somewhere along the line, one of the high schools here was so much problem that they had several girls that committed suicide because of bullying during the whole year, and nobody did anything about it. All of a sudden, you start getting, we have to wear a blue shirt. A blue shirt's not going to cut you to being bullied. That you got a blue shirt because you got bullied, or you got a blue shirt because you ratted out a bully to the principal. Well, if you rat out somebody and the principal, now you put that kid in danger when he's walking home to school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You just put a crosshairs on that kid. So, unfortunately, bullying is something that's wrong. We deal with it here. I teach kids how to deal with it. I teach adults how to deal with it, because bullying's going to be part of life. It's going to continue going up. Eventually, there's going to be a conflict, and we need to understand how to deal with it, because when the kid snaps off and he has not seen this, we get issues like what we saw with Uvalde over there, because now they're saying that he was being bullied because of his speech impediment. So there's a lot of factors that are out there that we have to pay attention to, and there's a lot of Johnny-come-lately that want to make money out of courses.
Yeah.
That teach the school boards, and the school boards just to say that they've been taught one way, they're going to go ahead and
Right.
sign everybody up. You see, now they're certified in this whole thing. And those Johnny-come-latelys are hindering, so we have to do our research on that.
Yeah. And again, I hate to, come back to this, but our counselors we need to let them do what they're trained to do. And in speaking to a group of counselors from another school district, they were telling me, like, everything we learn in school, we probably do 10% of that, because it's all back to the standardized testing and being the stewards of that. And you have some schools, and I really want to know this, with like 8 vice principals, and I want to, and each one is in charge of this. Each one is, maybe we need them, maybe we don't, but I'd like to find out why. I mean, when I was in school, when we were in school, we had one principal, we had one vice principal, and that was it. And then we had maybe 3 counselors, and they were able to run schools quite effectively. I know things have changed, but they've changed because of these standardized mandates, these standardized tests that are now, are being, I don't want to use the word threatened, but they hold it over our principals, they hold it over our school boards and so forth, and that's something we need to reevaluate. You mentioned social media. Another thing that has happened because of these school shootings is that before, students were not allowed to have their phones with them during the class, but because the shooting started, a lot of school boards saying, no, they need to be able to communicate, and I get that. But the other side of that is that now they're able to communicate with each other on Instagram or Facebook and some social media platforms really aren't made
for kids.
Exactly.
Facebook, it says adult entertainment. Some of the other ones say adult entertainment. Then you have kids that are 14, 15, 13
Right.
on there, and the parent says, oh, it's okay, they can be on there. They're not. No, it's not okay.
It's not okay.
There's a reason why you're not on there, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
You're not checking up on it. And you see this a lot, and you see that with a problem a lot. And parents kind of like, well, it's nonchalantly shrug it off.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now you got a problem. Now you have a problem.
Well, and my friend's son is also on, this another social media, I guess you can call it that, is video game chatting while they're playing video games. There's a lot of questionable bullying that happens there, that cyber type of bullying that happens there as well. So yeah, all that needs to be reevaluated, but my solution is to have counselors do what they're trained to do, especially at the schools, and that's just interact with our students, and hopefully we can do that and get back to that.
You brought out some damn good points, and that one was on social media, and that parents, you have to be on top of your kids. You have to know where they're at. Sorry, but you have a lot of pedophiles out there. You got a lot of predators out there, and predators are going to do what? Go after the weak. And if they see your kid always on media, they'll start going after them. They'll start attacking them. They'll go after them, and guess what? Now you have a problem. And you have to be vigilant on that. They should not be in there. A lot of them happen in the game rooms.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the game rooms, and all of a sudden that happens. And then, people say, "Oh no, they laid back on this." No, they're not laid back on that. I mean, but unfortunately, what can we do? Early voting's now. So, folks, you guys can go vote for Dr. Martinez if you live in that area for LISD. If they want to help you or get in contact with you, what can they call you?
Yeah, they can call me at 956-285-9783. And if I don't answer, you can leave a message. I'll get back to them. But yes, I think sometimes overall, I just want to say, we overlook school board elections, and they're so important.
Absolutely.
Many school board members also go on to do other things. I don't want to do that. I want to say, and I also, like I did with LC, I want to be in there for 4 years, and then I got to do other things. This is just a one-time shot for me if I'm elected, just to try to help in this area. But please pay attention to the school board elections. They're really important, and we got a lot of good people
running.
wanting to serve.
LISD has a lot of good guys running. UISD does as well. Research each one. Call them up, because everybody just goes down and jots them out. Find out what they're doing. Be involved with your school board. What's going on there? There's protocols involved also when you want to complain. Let's say you have a problem with an issue with the school. Call the principal of that school. Number one, call the principal, set a meeting, go talk to the principal, find out what the issue is. Now, if the principal kind of ignores you, you go to the board member of that area, and you set a meeting with him, her, whoever the board member is, and you talk to him. If that doesn't go anywhere, then you go to the school board. But when you go to the school board, griping and yelling at something that people sometimes don't know anything about, they're like, "Oh, what?" And all of a sudden, now you ended up with a wall. So again, start with a protocol. Start with the paper trail, as I call it. The same thing goes with bullying parents. I mean, I keep telling this to parents. Parents call me every week. There's at least 4 or 5 kids that they're calling that they want. Martial arts is not the issue for teaching your kid to be out of bullying. I can help you guys because I'm going to teach them some other things, like self-esteem, self-control, how to deal, how to socialize with those. Sometimes it's our kid that's being bullied, the one that's actually being the aggressor, but you don't see it because he's the one doing it because he doesn't have socialization skills.
Yeah.
So martial arts will help you with that, help you with all that stuff. But the last thing you want to do is punch somebody in the face, even though that is actually the best cure. What you want to do is listen to your child when he comes in. See what's wrong. If they don't want to go to school, something's going on. Call the teacher. If there is a presence of the different levels of bullying, make sure you do an email follow-up. If you talk to the teacher, follow up with an email as per our conversation, and address it to the principal, not the vice. Then continues, you address it to the teacher, the principal, and a board member. Now you started paper trail, this is happening. There's laws for that, laws that they can change your child out of the school, place them in another school to start all over again, or they take the bully out of the school and they place them somewhere else. There's laws for that, but you need to do your paper trail. Just don't say I call them up and I send them a text and I already did my job. No, that's not your job.
Yeah,
Period.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Early vote is going on this week, next week. Fire station downtown. There's some different areas. The library in the south.
The hospital.
LMC. LMC. So those are some areas where you can go vote. Do your job. Let's go vote. Because it's very important. Research your candidates. Research the reasons why. That's all I can say. Let's just get this done. And we'll leave you with the following. Much peace. And thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Because we have to continue our conversation
We'll do that.
on the exams, because that is something that that's its own topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we need to get others to talk about that and why not. Is it really effective?
Right.
And if it's not effective, then we have to do something about it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Until next time.
Thank you.
Peace.